Roman Reigns babyface. Push rejected hard. When Roman Reigns won the 2015 Royal Rumble, WWE envisioned him as the next John Cena. What they got instead was one of the loudest fan revolts in modern history. Despite his good looks, football background, and bloodline prestige, fans weren't ready to let go of Daniel Bryan. And they certainly didn't appreciate Reigns being anointed without earning it. For years, WWE kept doubling down. He beat The Undertaker. He main evented 4 straight WrestleManias. He beat cancer in real life, and the crowd still booed. The more the company insisted he was the guy, the more fans rejected it like expired milk. Ironically, it wasn't until he turned heel and embraced his inner mob boss that everyone finally bought in. So yes, Roman Reigns did eventually become the right star, just not the way WWE originally planned, and certainly not with that vest still on. Lex Luga's failed American hero push. After Hulk Hogan left WWF in the early 90s, Vince McMahon needed another flag-waving, muscle-bound savior of America. Enter Lex Luga, who went from narcissistic heel with mirrors to the all-American babyface practically overnight. He even toured the country on a red, white and blue bus called the Lex Express. This was the most aggressively patriotic rebranding since Uncle Sam. Vince gave him a non-title win over Yokozuna at SummerSlam 93. Complete with balloons, confetti, and the assumption fans would beg for more. They did not. The celebration felt unearned, and when Luga failed to win the title at WrestleMania 10, it was clear the push had fizzled. Turns out, just because you give someone a bus doesn't mean they should drive the company, especially if the fans would rather catch a ride with Bret Hart. The Great Khali was world champion. At 7 feet tall and seemingly carved out of granite and arthritis, the Great Khali debuted in WWE by crushing The Undertaker's head like a tomato. Within a year, he was world heavyweight champion. In a vacuum, this made sense. He was huge, intimidating, and technically breathing. But watching Khali wrestle was like watching a refrigerator try to climb stairs. His promos were in Punjabi, which WWE thought was fine because they just had translators make up whatever they wanted. Fans didn't buy him as a serious champion, but more importantly, they didn't enjoy his matches. Ever. Even WWE realized they had made a mistake and pivoted Khali into a dancing joke character shortly after. And honestly, the Punjabi Playboy era was probably more credible than his championship run. Sometimes, it's okay if the giant just stays a giant. Jinder Mahal's sudden WWE title run. In 2017, Jinder Mahal went from jobber to WWE champion in a matter of weeks. Powered by creatine, a new physique, and the vague promise of India's massive market. WWE hoped that giving him the title would unlock 1 billion fans overnight. Instead, they unlocked a tidal wave of why. Jinder's win over Randy Orton felt like a glitch in the Matrix, and his title reign was filled with boring promos, weird feuds, and lots of look at my culture boilerplate. India didn't tune in, US fans didn't buy in, and eventually WWE quietly dropped the experiment like a Bluetooth headset in 2007. Jinder was never the problem, but pushing him without building credibility absolutely was. He's now back where he was before, somewhere on the card, speaking with authority, but never taken seriously, just like management hoped the Indian market would. Alberto Del Rio never truly clicked. On paper, Alberto Del Rio had it all: wealthy aristocrat gimmick, check. Fancy cars, check. Ricardo Rodriguez with the greatest ring introduction since Howard Finkel, absolutely. WWE gave him multiple world title runs, a Royal Rumble win, and endless screen time, but something was always missing. It wasn't his in-ring ability. Del Rio could wrestle. It wasn't his presentation. He looked the part. The problem was charisma, or more accurately, the absence of it. Fans never connected with him, no matter how hard WWE tried. Every time Del Rio got a big win, it felt more like a corporate decision than a fan demand. His backstage issues and eventual exits didn't help either. In the end, Del Rio was like a luxury car with no engine, flashy, expensive, and stalled out halfway up the ramp. Lars Sullivan's push collapsed overnight online. WWE hyped Lars Sullivan like he was Brock Lesnar, and Thanos rolled into one. He debuted by destroying beloved mid-carders and was primed for a monster push. But then the internet happened. Old forum posts surfaced, revealing an embarrassing collection of offensive rants, locker room awkwardness, and a bizarre pre-WWE film history that made HR departments blink in Morse code. WWE froze, unpushed him mid-push, fined him 6 figures, and sent him home. When he returned, He was given haunting sit-down interviews and the nickname The Freak, which didn't help. Neither did the fact that fans had already checked out, and so had creative. Eventually Lars disappeared without much fanfare, leaving behind only a cautionary tale: never underestimate the combined power of Reddit, regret, and receipts. Sometimes, the only thing freakier than your gimmick is your browser history. Baron Corbin's never-ending main event attempts. Baron Corbin is the human embodiment of "we tried," okay? WWE gave him everything. The Money in the Bank briefcase, a constable gimmick, a king gimmick, a happy gimmick, even a depression gimmick, and yet no matter how often he appeared in main events, the crowd's reaction was either dead silence or active groaning. Corbin's in-ring work was serviceable, but his charisma hovered somewhere between lukewarm soup and a DMV clerk. He wasn't despised in the compelling heel way, just in the please fast-forward way. Despite being tall, safe, and always available, Corbin became a permanent mid-carder, dressed as a top guy. WWE kept trying to make him feel important, but he peaked as a broke man eating spaghetti in Las Vegas, which, ironically, was the most relatable he's ever been. Jack Swagger, the chosen one, fizzled. Jack Swagger had a lot going for him: an amateur wrestling pedigree, decent size, and a list Vince McMahon found weirdly charming. WWE pushed him hard in 2010, giving him the Money in the Bank briefcase and a world title run seemingly out of nowhere, but Swagger wasn't ready. His promos felt like someone doing an oral presentation they forgot to prepare for, and his matches never quite hit that main event level. Fans didn't boo, mostly they just blinked. Later, WWE tried again by pairing him with Zeb Coulter for the We the People anti-immigrant gimmick. And while it was controversial enough to get some heat, it never took Swagger beyond the ceiling he hit in his rookie push. He eventually left, reinvented himself in MMA, and now goes by a name that sounds like a sequel to Hacksaw Ridge. But in WWE, he's remembered mostly as a cautionary tale that not every All-American needs a championship belt. Mason Ryan. Batista clone, no charisma. When Mason Ryan walked into WWE, fans had one collective reaction. Is that Batista after a software update? A massive physique, intense stare, and Welsh accent that nobody could place. Ryan had the look of a superstar action figure. WWE clearly thought he was going to be the next big thing. They slotted him into CM Punk's new Nexus and teased a solo run soon after. Unfortunately, charisma isn't about biceps, and Mason Ryan had the personality of a loading screen. His matches were slow, his promos were, well, short, and the crowd never connected. He quietly faded from the spotlight and eventually from the company entirely. You know you're in trouble when even the wellness policy stops paying attention to your push. Mason Ryan now performs with Cirque du Soleil, which honestly might be the first time audiences clapped for him on purpose. Ryback's Goldberg run ended badly. Ryback was built like a human bulldozer and debuted with a simple plan: squash everything, scream "feed me more," repeat. For a while it worked. Fans bought into the intensity, and comparisons to Goldberg, while heavy-handed, were actually flattering. But once WWE pushed him into the main event scene, things unraveled fast. First, they fed him to CM Punk, then he lost to The Shield. Then he turned heel, then back, then maybe heel again, and by that point, fans were just hungry for better booking. His promos often felt like spoken typos, and his in-ring style wasn't known for protecting opponents. After a while, Ryback started cutting shoot promos on Twitter about catering. He left the company in a storm of bitterness, lawsuits, and a podcast. WWE tried to build a monster and ended up with a motivational speaker who quotes himself: "Feed him less." The Fiend was built, then buried. When Bray Wyatt re-emerged as the Fiend, it was the rare moment WWE stumbled into something genuinely fresh. A terrifying horror movie-inspired alter ego with incredible production value, haunting vignettes, and a mask that looked like a Slipknot audition gone wrong. Fans were hooked instantly. Then he wrestled. The red lights, the no-selling, the Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins that ended in a DQ because Bray was hit too much with a toolbox. It all went south faster than a Goldberg spear. Despite winning the Universal title, The Fiend quickly became a creative paradox, overexposed but underbooked. WWE didn't seem to know if he was supernatural, psychological, or just a man with a lantern fetish. Eventually, he was squashed by Goldberg in 3 minutes, feuded with Randy Orton in a fireball war, and disappeared after WrestleMania. Again, the lesson. You can build an unstoppable monster, but maybe don't light him on fire and expect him to stay hot. Austin Theory's main event push. stalled. Austin Theory looks like the kind of guy Vince McMahon draws in his notebook when he's bored. Young, shredded, smug, he checked every box for a WWE prototype. And once Vince literally introduced him on TV like a proud dad at a science fair, Theory got a meteoric push. United States champion? Check. Money in the Bank briefcase? Also check. Main event teases with Roman Reigns? Triple check. But the problem wasn't his look, it was everything else. Promos that felt AI generated, matches that were solid but never special, and a cocky heel gimmick that lacked depth. After Vince's brief disappearance, Theory's push got weird. He lost the briefcase to a failed cash-in on the US title and spent the next year walking the line between next big thing and next Dolph Ziggler. WWE wanted him to be the future, but forgot to give him a reason for fans to care in the present. Even now he seems, one bad selfie, away from mid-card purgatory. Braun Strowman built too late, then released. For years, Braun Strowman was booked like a myth. He flipped ambulances, broke rings, and chased Roman Reigns around like a cartoon bear. Fans loved it. Then WWE waited and waited and waited to actually pull the trigger. By the time they finally made him Universal Champion, it was in front of 0 fans during the pandemic, replacing Roman Reigns at the last second. Strowman's title reign was a creative black hole, and when things reopened, he was released in a cost-cutting move so abrupt it felt like a prank. WWE spent years building a monster and then let him go like a seasonal intern. He did eventually return, this time with red pants, choo-choo noises, and a chip on his shoulder, but the aura never came back. Braun had the size, the reactions, even the catchphrases. He just never got the moment. And when he finally did, it came with piped-in crowd noise and a CGI swamp. Tensai debut bombed immediately on impact. Matt Bloom left WWE as Prince Albert, became a star in Japan as Giant Bernard, then returned in 2012 as Lord Tensai, an American gaijin now presented as a mystical Japanese warlord, complete with fake kanji, tattoos, and a silent ninja valet. It was basically a mid-2000s action movie villain brought to life, and it tanked on arrival. Fans instantly recognized him as Albert, chanted Albert during matches, and laughed him out of serious contention. WWE tried to salvage the push by having him beat John Cena clean. That didn't help. He was quickly demoted, dropped the Lord, the mysticism, and eventually became the comedic dancing tag partner of Brodus Clay. The most devastating part, he was actually good in Japan. WWE just wrapped him in a gimmick so outdated it might as well have included a gong sound effect. By the time he became an NXT trainer, his career had come full circle. Less Lord Tensai, more Professor Redemption. Damian Sandow wasted despite huge pops. Damian Sandow was one of those rare talents who could take absolutely anything, no matter how ridiculous, and make it work. A smug intellectual with a robe and a condescending promo style? Over. Dressing up like Magneto on Raw? Over. Mimicking The Miz as Damian Mizdow, complete with synchronized bumps? Super over. He had the crowd in the palm of his hand, which is probably why WWE got nervous. Sandow won the Money in the Bank briefcase, then lost his cash-in clean to a one-armed John Cena. And that was basically the end. After a brief run of underwhelming gimmicks, including impersonations, comedy filler, and a stint where he was just himself, WWE let him go. He's now thriving on the indie scene and in NWA, but fans still chant, "You're welcome," in unison whenever he's mentioned. Turns out the only thing WWE hates more than a bad idea is a good one they didn't plan. Matt Morgan was groomed, forgotten quickly. Matt Morgan was 7 feet tall, jacked to the gills, and looked like a creator wrestler with every stat maxed out. WWE even called him the Blueprint, a title so confident it practically dared fans not to care. His debut in 2003 came with a stutter gimmick, because nothing says future main eventer like speech-based humiliation. Then poof, he was gone. WWE quietly released him, and Morgan went on to find more success in TNA, where they actually let him talk like an adult and look like a threat. Back in WWE, it was a cautionary tale. Even if you look the part, you need more than biceps and Vince's approval to stick. Morgan was what would happen if someone tried to push Batista before he discovered charisma or shirts. To this day, fans look at him as proof that WWE doesn't always forget about you after you flop. Sometimes they get started early. Bobby Lashley's first run flopped hard. When Bobby Lashley first showed up in WWE, they clearly had high hopes. He was big, fast, intense, and came with legit amateur credentials. But then he was given a personality carved out of granite. Zero charisma, dry promos, and a storyline orbit that somehow included ECW, Donald Trump, and Vince McMahon wearing a do-rag. His matches weren't bad, but they felt clinical, like watching a fitness instructor demonstrate grappling techniques. WWE tried hard. Main event slots, title wins, WrestleMania moments, but Lashley just didn't connect. He left in 2008 and found success in TNA and MMA, where he became the guy WWE wanted him to be, just not in WWE. When he returned, a decade later, he finally clicked, but only after growing a personality, adding MVP as a mouthpiece and wearing more suits than a court-appointed lawyer. It worked eventually, but WWE somehow managed to botch 2 Lashleys before they got it right. Vladimir Kosoff pushed, then dropped silently. In 2008, Vladimir Kosoff showed up looking like he'd escaped from a Soviet prison and learned to wrestle through blunt trauma. He headbutted people in the chest, walked like a T-800, and was declared undefeated with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. WWE tried to make him a monster heel, pushing him into feuds with Jeff Hardy and Triple H. The problem? He had the charisma of boiled oatmeal. Audiences reacted with silence, then with laughter, then with change the channel energy. And once the push ended, so did Kosoff's career momentum. Within a couple of years, he was dancing in a tag team with Santino Marella, because when in doubt, make the scary foreign guy funny. Eventually, WWE quietly let him go. In retrospect, Kosoff wasn't a total disaster. He just exposed WWE's worst habit, mistaking intensity for interest. He looked intimidating, sure, until he opened his mouth and killed it all with 3 syllables of robotic dread. Heiden Reich, built as monster, recited poems. WWE wanted Heiden Reich to be the next big thing. He had size, rage, and a forehead, built for headbutting walls, but instead of letting him destroy things, they had him recite poetry. No, seriously. Heiden Reich would whisper disturbing verses to Michael Cole before assaulting him backstage in what may still be the most uncomfortable promo in wrestling history. He later aligned with Road Warrior Animal to form a weird legacy tag team, and even that couldn't help. The guy never found his footing. WWE built him up with vignettes showing him breaking out of a mental asylum, only to turn him into a spoken word performance art monster who just wanted a friend. It was like someone tried to reboot Kane but added a creative writing MFA. Heiden Reich was another in a long line of WWE's scary guy push experiments that fell apart. Not because fans rejected the monster, but because the monster kept reading. Test, hand-picked future star, didn't work. Test was tall, muscular, had a killer big boot, and for a brief window in the late 90s, seemed destined for greatness. He had a storyline engagement to Stephanie McMahon, a tag title run with Booker T, and an entrance theme that sounded like someone shredding a guitar with a chainsaw. But here's the thing, he just never got over. Whether it was bad luck, flat promos, or simply getting overshadowed in the Attitude Era chaos, Test always felt like WWE wanted him to succeed more than fans did. They tried again in the Ruthless Aggression era, giving him a new look, bigger muscles, and even less personality. Still no luck. WWE eventually let him go, and his tragic passing in 2009 solidified his story as one of potential unrealized. Test had all the tools, he just never built anything lasting with them, except maybe the blueprint for future almost guys. Snitzky got a push for kicks. In 2004, WWE gave us Snitzky, a giant with terrible teeth and an even worse backstory. His entire gimmick started with accidentally punting a baby doll into the audience after supposedly causing Lita's miscarriage. Yes, that was actually the angle. WWE saw this and thought, future star. Snitzky was immediately pushed as a monstrous heel, delivering foot-based offense and promos that sounded like a fever dream. He said, "It wasn't my fault." So often it became a catchphrase for fans to ironically chant while changing the channel. A later WWE tried to make him even scarier by shaving his head, giving him yellow teeth, and turning him into a silent freak. It was like watching a rejected Batman villain try out for a shampoo commercial. He had size, sure, but zero connection with the crowd, unless it involved rubber babies. In the end, Snitzky was proof that even the most infamous gimmicks can get a push in WWE, as long as they're weird enough to be remembered. Tyler Rex pushed, repackaged, then vanished. Tyler Rex looked like the next big thing, imposing, athletic, and with a finisher called the Burning Hammer. or at least a slightly safer version of it. WWE gave him a minor push on ECW, then rebranded him with dreadlocks, a surfer meets road warrior vibe, and an attitude that said, "I'll main event in 2022, somewhere else." Despite having all the physical tools, Rex never truly got over. He bounced between brands, was briefly part of a tag team with Kurt Hawkins, and eventually repackaged as a male stripper. Yes. In 2012, WWE decided the best way to salvage his career was through a Magic Mike parody. It lasted a week. Rex quietly left the company, later transitioning into a new life entirely, and became Gabby Tuft, bravely coming out as transgender in 2021. A powerful personal story, but as a WWE star, Rex was another case of creative has nothing for you, unless you count tearaway pants. WWE gave him a spotlight, then forgot where they put the switch. Muhammad Hassan cancelled while getting over. Muhammad Hassan was actually working. A character designed to tap into post-9/11 cultural tensions, Hassan was a Middle Eastern American angry at how he was treated despite being born in the US. And he had a point. WWE introduced him with real heat, gave him mic time, and surrounded him with controversy-fueled storytelling. But then, they took it way, way too far. In July 2005, WWE aired a segment where Hassan summoned masked men with piano wire to attack The Undertaker on the same day as the London bombings. The fallout was instant. UPN, WWE's TV partner, demanded he be pulled, so WWE did the logical thing and had Undertaker murder him on screen at the next pay-per-view. No farewell promo, no resolution, just a last ride through a stage and straight into the void. Hassan was never seen again. A red-hot heel built to challenge the system, erased by that very system. Irony, thy name is WWE booking. Nathan Jones, built for WrestleMania, removed. Nathan Jones was literally built for WrestleMania? No, really, that was the whole gimmick. WWE introduced the 6'10" muscle-bound Australian as The Undertaker's tag partner for WrestleMania 19, hyping him as an ex-convict turned destroyer. The problem? He couldn't wrestle. At all. Reports backstage said he was too green, too slow, and too unsafe. So, at the last minute, WWE pulled him from the match and wrote him out with a backstage ambush. Taker wrestled alone and Jones ran in for a mild assist. That was it. His big WrestleMania debut became a trivia question. WWE tried using him afterward with a brief singles push, but his development stalled harder than a 1994 Windows startup. Nathan Jones had the look of a star and the in-ring awareness of a broomstick in concrete boots. Within a year, he left the company, resurfaced in action movies, and proved more effective as a henchman in Mad Max than in any wrestling ring. WWE built him, and then pulled the blueprint mid-blueprint. Eric Escobar, Vicky's pick, audience confused. Eric Escobar's entire WWE run can be summed up as, wait, who? Introduced in 2009 as the new love interest of Vicky Guerrero, Escobar was supposed to be a suave, cocky upstart with instant main roster credibility. He got mic time, screen time, and matches against major stars. There was only one problem: no one cared. His promos felt like they were being read off a teleprompter in another language. His charisma was completely MIA, and the chemistry with Vicky was somewhere between soap opera and hostage situation. Fans didn't boo him, they didn't cheer him, they mostly just blinked. After a few weeks of mild build and growing silence, WWE pulled the plug. Escobar was quietly sent back to developmental and released not long after. He went from being groomed as SmackDown's next breakout star to being the answer to an obscure trivia question. WWE gave him the keys, but forgot to check if he could drive. Spoiler, he couldn't. Tyler Breeze, main roster, arrival killed momentum. Tyler Breeze was cool. In NXT, he was a perfectly tuned parody of fashion-obsessed narcissism with genuine wrestling skill. He had the selfie stick, the Zoolander vibes, and an entrance theme that deserved Grammy consideration. Then he got called up to the main roster and immediately became cannon fodder. WWE turned a beloved act into a punchline, having him lose repeatedly with little explanation. He was paired with Summer Rae for some reason, feuded with Dolph Ziggler for even less reason, and within weeks, the Prince Pretty gimmick lost all its NXT mystique. WWE saw him as a comedy guy, fans saw him as an underdog with charisma, so of course, creative saw him as expendable. Eventually, Breeze found life again in Breezango, a tag team that leaned into absurdist fashion files and made the most of bad booking. But the message was clear: Tyler Breeze could have been a main roster breakout if someone backstage had watched literally one NXT match. Instead, he got runway walked straight into obscurity. Dominic Mysterio's babyface run bombed. WWE tried so hard to make Dominic Mysterio work as a white meat babyface. He was Rey Mysterio's son. He had a great underdog origin story. He wore his dad's gear, smiled a lot, and got beat up constantly. Unfortunately, he also had the promo presence of a shy middle schooler doing Hamlet for extra credit. Fans didn't boo him. They sighed at him. He lacked edge, timing, and most importantly, anything to separate him from being Rey's tall kid. But then WWE turned him heel, joined him with Judgment Day, gave him a mullet, a teardrop tattoo, and prison jokes, and suddenly the crowd cared. Because it was ridiculous, but it was fun. His heel promos became cringe in the right way. Ex-Con Dom was born, and people finally started reacting. The lesson? WWE tried to build Dominic as a modern-day Eddie Guerrero tribute act, but accidentally built someone closer to Eddie from Tekken. When they stopped forcing sympathy and embraced the chaos, it finally clicked. Eva Marie Push ignored fan reactions. WWE really wanted Eva Marie to be a star. She had the look, the reality show buzz, and the ability to walk to the ring in slow motion. That's it. Her actual in-ring performances range from nervous rehearsal to medically concerning. Despite that, WWE kept trying. Multiple vignettes, reboots, and a long entrance delay gimmick that teased matches she never had. The idea was to turn heel heat into nuclear buzz. Instead, it turned into a game of how long until the crowd gives up. Even when she returned in 2021 after a long hiatus, it came with another hard push, this time with Dowdrop as her muscle. And once again, it flopped. The crowd just didn't buy it. Not as a villain, not as a redemption story, not as a brand ambassador for mysterious red attire. Eva Marie wasn't just a case of WWE pushing someone fans didn't like. She was the textbook example. At some point, even the jaded crowd started chanting, "You can't wrestle," and, well, that's not supposed to be the whole character. Karrion Kross debut completely mishandled. In NXT, Karrion Kross was an apocalyptic presence. He had scarlet smoke fire, creepy music, and the vibe of a Final Fantasy villain who bench presses souls. He went undefeated, crushed stars, and looked primed for a main roster takeover. Then he debuted on Raw in a red gladiator helmet and suspenders. Scarlet was gone. The entrance was gone. The aura, gone. His first match? A quick loss to Jeff Hardy with his foot on the ropes. And just like that, Kross's mystique was nuked from orbit. WWE somehow took a top-tier presentation and reduced it to cheap cosplay with a losing streak. Fans were baffled. Kross was confused. Even Vince might have blacked out during the pitch meeting. Within weeks, Kross was released, later re-signed, and finally got Scarlett back. But the damage was done. His original debut may be the greatest example of WWE building a star, then throwing a helmet on him and saying, "Why isn't it working?" Vince McMahon himself pushed as wrestler. Let's end with the ultimate wrong star. Vince McMahon not pushing the wrong star, being the wrong star. Vince booked himself to win the Royal Rumble. Vince booked himself to beat the ECW champion. Vince booked himself to win matches against Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, and even The Undertaker, with help. Sure, he got nuclear heat, but often at the expense of the people fans actually wanted to see. WrestleMania matches, pay-per-view main events, and segments that lasted forever. Vince loved putting himself in front of the camera, especially during the Ruthless Aggression era. Sometimes it worked in a car crash way. Most of the time it felt like watching your dad yell at customer service in a Speedo. And while no one denies his impact behind the scenes, his obsession with booking himself as the unbeatable jacked-up CEO made a lot of potential stars look second-rate. At some point, fans stopped booing the villain and started booing the ego. If you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button because there's more coming your way.